I thought I'd step back from the headlines for a moment and share a perspective on the current Israeli-Hamas crisis that have helped me process the horrors of the past several weeks. First, humility. What we know about this crisis and how it's unfolding is greatly exceeded by what we don't know. Partly it's a function of fast-moving events with breathless 24/7 media coverage without much perspective. Whether it's the hostages, the looming Israeli ground campaign, or the chances of escalation on the Israeli-Lebanese border, so much of what we're watching is opaque and beyond our capacity to intuit, let alone to analyze. Speculation, some of it harmful, runs rampant. And that calls for real discipline in our analysis and restraint in quickly reaching conclusions that aren't substantiated by facts and empirical data. In this emotionally charged environment, we owe it to ourselves and to those caught up in this terrible war to do no less. Second, humanity. Hamas's intentional, indiscriminate killing that took the lives of 1,400 Israelis on October 7th stands alone in its savagery and brutality. But those horrors cannot and should not prevent us from pushing out of our hearts and minds the suffering and deaths of thousands of innocent Palestinians who have died as a result of Israel's efforts to strike back at Hamas in Gaza. As Secretary of State Blinken has said, there's no hierarchy when it comes to the deaths of civilians in war, be they Israeli or Palestinian. Finally, hope in history. On October 6, 1973, 50 years ago last month, I watched in Jerusalem an Israeli society traumatized by the Yom Kippur and October War. And yet within 6 years, that trauma would turn to hope with the signing of an Egyptian-Israeli peace treaty. 20 years later, September 1993, I watched on the White House lawn as President Bill Clinton, Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, and PLO Chairman Yasser Arafat clasped hands and signed the Oslo Accords. And yet there, great hopes would turn to trauma. We cannot see what's in front of us. Every breakthrough in the Arab-Israeli conflict zone has been preceded by war, by terror, and by violence. And the arc of history often bends in unpredictable and strange ways. Perhaps something of value will come out of this crisis. One thing is surely true. Hoping isn't enough. It's up to humans to work tirelessly to try to bend that arc of history in the right direction.